Consistency is a big problem for a lot of us when we go play. We're going to show you today one thing that we found in gears that's going to really fine tune your consistency. To do that, we're going to jump into gears, then we're going to come back and show you exactly how to apply it. I don't believe what we're about to show you has ever been seen outside of one of our lessons, but we hope it'll be just as helpful to you as it has been to the players who've seen it. In order to see this internal-external relationship of the pelvis and the legs, we need to look at the golfer from this bird's eye view here in gears. The sections of the body that we're going to track are the centers of the golfer's lead knee, the trail knee, and pelvis, shown here by the 3 white dots. Now, if the golfer's set up dead square, all 3 of these numbers would have 0 rotation, meaning they're perfectly perpendicular to the target line. If all 3 rotate together on the backswing, those numbers would again match at the top of the swing. And if they all rotated together in the downswing, yep, the same deal, those numbers would all stay the same again. But this is not what we want to see happening. So let's look at a couple pros to actually see what should happen. Let's take a look at our first PGA Tour winner. Right away at setup, you'll notice that his segments are not perfectly square or perpendicular to the target line. But because of foot flare and a few other factors, no one ever really is. What is common among great players is what happens when he starts moving. The very first key thing to notice is how quickly his pelvis rotation overtakes his trail knee rotation. That means his pelvis is turning into his trail leg, not turning with it. He's creating internal rotation into that trail side. They're not just spinning back together. Now look at what he's doing on the lead side. He's turning away from his lead knee. That's external rotation. That's a big time move that shows up in almost every elite player we've ever measured. As he gets to the top, the same pattern continues. Belt buckle turning into his trail knee and away from his lead knee. That stretch away from the lead leg, that's gold. And it sets up a strong athletic position for a powerful downswing. Now, watch what happens as soon as he starts down. Both knees rotate towards the target immediately. There was a recent trend floating around about having your knees go opposite directions starting down. Hopefully this clears that up. That's not what we see in high-level swings. And to close the loop, you'll see the pelvis now pull away from the trail knee just like it did with the lead knee in the backswing. Then it overtakes the lead knee as it turns into it. Then here at impact, you can see the end result. His pelvis is externally rotated away from the trail leg and internally rotated into his lead leg. Exactly what we expect to see from elite ball strikers. This combination is textbook. It's prototypical of how top-level players manage internal and external rotation. The sequence of trail side internal, lead side external in the backswing, then flipping that in the downswing is a key signature for elite level movement. As we look at pro number 2, you'll notice he uses a bit more lateral shift to kick things off. But the key pattern is still there. His pelvis rotation overtakes the trail knee early. And just like pro number 1, it's turning away from the lead knee, external on the lead side, internal on the trail side. At the top, you'll see the same stretch across the pelvis. Good external rotation on the lead leg and about half as much internal rotation into the trail leg. Coming down, everything starts turning toward the target. And once again, we see the same sequencing. The pelvis overtakes the right knee, then the left. So while the numbers and styles may differ slightly between world-class players, the pattern doesn't. External on the lead side, internal on the trail side going back, and the reverse on the way down. That's the sequence you want to take away from this. Now let's look at what happens when this pattern gets interrupted. In this first example, the player actually does a solid job going back. He turns away from his lead leg and into his trail leg, building up a fairly typical amount of pelvis rotation. Here he's in his mid-40s at the top of his swing. So far so good. As he starts down, everything starts turning towards the target, which is what we want. But now you're going to see the pattern start to break down. His pelvis overtakes his right knee, but it never overtakes the lead knee. That's a big disruption in the normal sequence we saw from the first 2 players. What's one of the most common results we see when this happens? You're looking at it. Low rotation at impact. Despite being in his mid-40s going back with his pelvis turn, he's only in his mid-20s open at impact. That's what we call imbalance rotation. More turn going back than coming through. And that's not a great recipe for consistency or power. A big contributor to that is stance width. Even though he's the tallest golfer you're going to see today, he also swings from the narrowest stance. He told us he feels like it helps him make a bigger turn going back, but as you can see, it costs him more on the way down. All right, so let's wrap this up with one more example. This player told us right off the bat that he's a big fan of a centered pivot. He's got some decent width to his stance, but take a look at how he turns his feet inward to help him stay centered and avoid swaying off the ball. Now watch as he starts the club back. There's almost no body turn, it's pretty much all arms. And that's what we typically see when someone's bought into the idea that less movement means fewer mistakes. What ends up happening is the arms are forced to do all the work the body should be doing. And when that's the case, neither the arms or the body are going to work well. As he gets to the top of his backswing, you'll notice something we haven't seen from any of the other players. He's got more internal rotation on his right than external on his left. In other words, he's created very little stretch on that lead side. And that's going to be a big problem for him when he starts down. As he changes directions here, I want you to focus in on his left foot. See how he spins that heel inward right away? We call that the pirouette move. It's super common and most golfers don't even realize they're doing it. The issue here is to make that move, he's got to hang back and keep most of his pressure under his trail foot, which allows him to lighten his lead foot enough to spin it inward. But that also means there's not enough pressure under the lead foot to stop the body's momentum as it moves forward. So what do you get from that combination? You get a slow turning pelvis that never overtakes either knee. Basically, everything just kind of turns together in a high effort, low power twist like you're seeing here. The important thing to note here is that both of the players in red were physically and completely capable of making the pro pattern. And by the end of their sessions, they were. But in both cases, the thing holding them back wasn't physical, it was conceptual. Once we helped them understand what actually needs to happen, the movement started to change quickly. We just saw how we want to have the proper rate and amount of internal, external rotation with the legs and the pelvis. How can we put this into practice? You and I have adopted this in our swings and it's made a big difference. How do we apply this where the golfer watching this can start to practice this today and start to actually use it?
Yeah, I think it's, we've done a couple videos about, learn how to internally and externally rotate the hips, which is different than just spinning around like a top.
Right.
And, the way most people have thought about the backswing is always thinking about internally rotating the trail hip, which is fine, but the more we work on this in our own swings and help golfers, we've had a lot of luck focusing on what this lead hip is doing on the backswing and what the trail hip's doing on the downswing.
We just saw in gears that there's some internal rotation, but there's more external from the trail side. And it's kind of been a game changer thinking about that differently.
It is, and for me, when I go play golf now, I focus more on what my sensation is in this lead leg as I'm turning the belt buckle away from the leg. And when I have that little stretch in there, my transition almost feels automatic, where my tendency used to be to overkick this leg and then straighten the trail leg.
Both of us.
Which you don't get any of that internal external at that point in the actual hip joints. You're not doing any work at the hips. Now I feel like as I make my backswing, this leg stays pretty stable. I'm turning my belt away from it. I'm still internally rotating in the trail hip, but my sensation now is I'm stretching the belt buckle away from the femur, and then it's almost as if it's an automatic transition move where my legs work the way they're supposed to for the first time in a long time. I don't have to think about it anymore. So I kind of got a cheat code there now.
We're both a bit guilty of this kind of movement where you just, all this slack and you kind of run out of range of motion, then you start a downswing, whereas what you're describing really puts that stretch and wind up to where, like you said, you get that proper lower body, upper body transition sequence that every golfer wants.
Well, it keeps me from backing in too much, and I know a lot of you don't have that problem, you're the other way, but a lot of people do. They over back in the hips and they get too tilted, especially good players, and that's not a good feeling because as soon as you start down, you're overly tilted, and you can see what it does to the club motion. It gets way underplaying, and you start having to hit these flippy hooks with a high exit. It's a nightmare.
Okay, let's set up to it, facing this camera here.
Facing.
Yep, face on, yep. Make your backswing feeling that in your backswing.
So that's my feel right there.
Okay, so what you can see is his lead leg from this face on camera is still pretty much a straight line. You don't see a big, that movement there.
No, and I feel like a stretch all the way from my big toe to my hands. That's what I feel throughout the whole body. Instead of just trying to place the club somewhere, I'm trying to stretch the whole system. And then it rebounds into that motion where I'm on top of the ball. Both knees are flexed the way they should be. And then coming through, now I try to stretch the trail.
So let's
belt
do that. Come
yeah.
through the impact. You're going to see more from this face on camera, the knees bent and all that. But from the face on camera, you've got now more of a straighter lined up leg on the trail side. So you're essentially pulling away from the lead leg, pulling away from the trail leg, rather than kind of using the knees to kind of drive things, which is, we were both taught that.
And again, this is just a swing cue. Some of you might woke up and do it naturally.
Right.
I never did. I probably did when I was a kid, and I was probably taught out of it. I was taught for a long time to flatten the hips and back my butt in. And it's, for me, if you're one of those players, to me, focusing on this, moving the pelvis or the belt buckle away from the lead leg gets rid of all this slack in there and too much backing in, which to me was a kiss of death.
And you're going to find great players online who did this. We're not saying that no one does that. We're saying if you have a problem with consistency in your swing, learning, first of all, the right concept, but how to move into each leg and away from each leg, is mainly what we're saying, will make a big difference for you.
And I mean, I'm in here all the time hitting balls, and I know something for me that it helps too. If I'm guilty of kicking this trail leg in, just, I don't know if it's just I didn't really learn how to do it properly at one point, and I have a lot of kind of foot slide at times. This hip flexor gets tight. If I do this correctly, I feel like I have a lot more control over the club face.
It's amazing how that changes your exit, and the amount of face rotation you have is visibly different.
Yeah, it changes how this hand pat, I mean, all we have at the end of the day is hand pat is going around us, right? And as long as I don't overkick that leg and I'm making the correct external rotation away from this trail leg, this club goes around a lot better, and I have a lot less of this late kind of like, I used to have almost a buckle and a club head flash, and I know from my experience, I cannot get the ball to start on line. It's a straight, like an iron, I would hit a straight start line and overdraw, and I know right away that that's causing me too much play in the club face.
So pull your camera out, set it up face on, make your backswing, look for that lead leg to be pretty much in line. And by that we mean hip, knee, and ankle kind of in a straight line. You don't want to see, now,
like this.
Let me just put the caveat in. You're not trying to leave this knee out. We'll see a lot of golfers try this for the first time that go this way. We don't want to do that.
No, don't force it.
Right. We want to pull the belt buckle away from the kneecap.
And I'll say this, and this is not going to be for everybody, but you know, if you have two like poles coming out of your pelvis, your
femurs.
Basically, you know, if you just started like rods, you're turning there's two rubber bands attached to your pelvis. You're stretching the left one, stretching the right one, and it's a lot more a stable feeling instead of kind of moving the legs around too much.
That's exactly right. So you're going to see that in the backswing, and then at impact, you want to see it on the trail leg. You want to see that leg kind of lined up.
You're really going to feel a stretch in this hip flexor if you've never felt it before, and it will look a lot different. You'll look a lot more stable here with the body, hands, and the club. And that's a pretty good feeling if you can figure that out.
And if you've never done that before, this is the speed we want you to try to do this.
Yeah, so I'm gonna rehearse it here that way, and then I'll just chip one. And I feel finally the leg would come in.
Did you know you did it?
Yeah.
Okay, so go at a speed where you know you can do it. What so many of you do when you practice, and everyone's guilty of this, is blasting a shot, trying to do something different, and then have to go to video or just think I did it or not. Go at a speed where you know you're doing the change. Then as you get more comfortable doing the change, the speed will come. But for a lot of you, you're going to be tight in those
you need to
hip
stretch.
So it may not be physically easy to do. So don't blast off doing this full speed off the bat. Give yourself time to build up to it. You will see a difference in your exit. You'll see a difference in your impact and your consistency.